The bridal suite was supposed to feel magical. A safe, glowing haven lit with soft bulbs and surrounded by lace, perfume, and the quiet hum of people preparing for the biggest moment of my life. Bridesmaids floated around me like colored butterflies, adjusting veils, snapping pictures, laughing softly. It should have soothed me. But beneath my ribs sat a familiar ache, an instinct I had ignored for months. Patricia will try something. My mother-in-law had always worn hostility like a signature fragrance. Sharp. Unavoidable. The kind that stung your eyes the moment she entered the room. She never outright cursed me or raised her voice. No. Her cruelty was of a more polished kind. The type wrapped in fake smiles and "I'm just being honest" remarks designed to bruise from the inside out. I stood in front of the tall mirror, smoothing my gown. The lace bodice shimmered under the lights, hugging my waist before spilling into layers of soft tulle. I looked like a bride, hopeful, fragile, glowing. For the first time that morning, my reflection made me smile. The door opened without warning. Then came the click of heels. I felt her before I saw her. Patricia stood in the doorway wearing an elegant champagne-colored gown, far too close to white to be accidental. Her hair was pinned perfectly, and her lips painted a deep, plum red. She carried a glass of wine, dark and dangerous, swirling it lazily like she owned the air around her. Her eyes ran over me with slow judgment. "Well," she said, "I suppose you clean up better than expected." My bridesmaids froze. Some exchanged glances, others looked down, suddenly very interested in their bouquets. Confronting Patricia was never easy. She had mastered the art of making you doubt your own reactions. I offered a polite smile, because that's what I had learned. Stay calm. Don't feed her fire. "Good morning, Patricia. Is everything all right?" She stepped closer, her heels clicking like a countdown. "I was just thinking," she said, lifting the glass, "how quickly things change. 1 minute, someone promises forever. And the next," she shrugged. "Well, we know how men can be." My breath caught. She knew exactly where my insecurities lived. She had studied them, memorized them. My childhood, marked by goodbyes and disappearances, wasn't a secret to her. She wielded that knowledge like a weapon. I straightened my spine. Daniel is not like that. She smiled at her wine. Men are always like that. I didn't respond. Interacting with Patricia felt like walking through a minefield. Every step had consequences. Then she moved in closer. Too close. Before I could even shift away, her wrist flicked, almost gracefully. The wine flew. A stream of deep red splashed across my bodice. It soaked into the lace, blooming like a violent flower. Gasps burst from the bridesmaids, sharp and horrified. I stumbled back. "Oh my God, Patricia! What did you why?" She didn't even try to look panicked or apologetic. Instead, she smiled. A slow, triumphant smirk. "Oops," she said lightly, tapping a manicured finger against her glass. Butterfingers. Must be nerves. My chest tightened. Anger, humiliation, and heartbreak crashed together so fast I couldn't separate them. She leaned in close enough that I felt her breath on my ear. "Enjoy it," she whispered, voice laced with venom. "He'll leave you like everyone else." The words stopped my heartbeat. For a moment, the room spun. Every fear, every childhood memory of being left behind slammed into me like a tidal wave. She wanted this. She wanted me broken, crying, ruined. But instead of falling apart, something inside me shifted, snapped, solidified, and then, slowly, I smiled. A small, deliberate smile that made Patricia blink in confusion. "Thank you," I whispered. Her brows knitted. "For what?" "For helping me decide what to do next." Before she could ask anything else, I turned and walked out. Calm, steady, purposeful. She thought she had destroyed me. She had no idea she had just set the stage for her own downfall. I didn't stop walking until the hallway curved out of sight, and the noise of the bridal suite faded behind me. Only then did my breath hitch, sharp and jagged. like my lungs were finally allowed to feel the shock. I pressed a hand to the stained lace of my bodice, my wedding dress, the one I had dreamed about since I was a little girl. Now the white fabric looked wounded, bruised by deep red. For a moment, I let myself crumble. Just for a moment. My legs trembled, and I braced myself against the wall, swallowing a sob that clawed its way up my throat. Patricia's voice echoed in my head, cruel and familiar. "He'll leave you like everyone else." Those words slithered into the cracks I thought I had long sealed. They reminded me of my mother crying on the kitchen floor, the night my father left. They reminded me of the relatives who disappeared when things got hard. They reminded me of being 12 years old, staring at a packed suitcase and wondering why my presence never seemed enough to make someone stay. Back then, heartbreak felt like the world collapsing. Today, it felt like a deep wound reopening. But wounds heal stronger when they break open. I straightened slowly, pulling myself together piece by piece. A soft knock startled me. My maid of honor, Leela, peeked around the corner, eyes wide with worry. "Are you okay?" she asked, rushing to my side. "I will be," I said, even though my voice shook. "I just need a minute." Leela looked down at the stained dress and sucked in a sharp breath. "I can't believe she did this. I mean, she literally smiled. What is wrong with that woman?" A humorless laugh escaped me. "Where do we even start?" Lila squeezed my hand. "Do you want me to get Daniel?" He would drop everything. "No." I shook my head firmly. "I don't want to ruin his day. Not because of her." I meant it. Daniel didn't deserve drama forced into his wedding day by someone who didn't know how to love without controlling. He had spent months telling me he would protect me from his mother's venom, but I always refused to let him choose. I didn't want to be the reason he fought with his family. But today, she chose for him. I took a deep breath and straightened my shoulders. Lila opened the garment bag as she blinked. "Which one?" "The white one. The long one." A recognition dawned on her face. "Your backup dress." I nodded. Months ago, I had fallen in love with a different gown. Sleek satin, long sleeves embroidered with silver thread, elegant but bold. When Patricia saw it, she wrinkled her nose and said, "It looks too powerful. Brides should look sweet, not imposing." Her meaning was clear. I was not allowed to look strong. Daniel, however, watched my reflection with awe. "You look like yourself in this one," he said softly. "The woman I want to marry. If you want it, I'll buy it. No questions asked." Patricia hated that dress, which made me love it even more. Leela unzipped the garment bag, and the smooth fabric spilled out like liquid moonlight. My breath steadied. "This dress," I whispered, touching it, "is who I am." Leela smiled, eyes bright. "Then let's get you into it." As we worked, she helped me out of the stained gown and into the new one, zipping the back carefully. The satin hugged me like strength itself. When I turned to the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked fierce, determined. "Whole, it's perfect," Leela whispered. "It's me," I said, and in that moment, something inside me clicked into place. Patricia had expected tears. She expected me to crumble beneath old wounds and new humiliation. She expected her cruelty to define my wedding. But she forgot one thing: I don't break the way I used to. I stood tall, smoothing the sleeves of my gown. "It's time," I said. "Time for what?" Leela asked. "For everyone to see who I really am." We walked back toward the venue doors, each step closer to a future no one, not even Patricia, could take from me. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be undeniable. And it would begin the moment those doors opened. The murmur of guests filtered through the tall wooden doors like a low, restless heartbeat. Violins played softly in the background, an elegant melody that should have soothed me, but instead it sharpened my focus. Leela stood beside me, clutching my bouquet as if the flowers themselves might steady the air around us. "You ready?" she whispered. I nodded, but truthfully, readiness wasn't what I felt. I felt purpose. A purpose so steady, so rooted, that it hummed beneath my skin like electricity. Beyond the doors, people were waiting, confused, whispering, probably wondering why the bride had vanished for nearly half an hour on her wedding day. Rumors grow fast in elegant rooms, filled with expensive perfume and small minds. And among them, Patricia. I imagined her sitting somewhere near the front, pretending to worry, pretending to care, wearing that self-satisfied smirk she had perfected over decades of manipulating every room she walked into. 30 minutes ago, she'd believed she won. Now, she had no idea what was coming. The coordinator approached the doors, her eyes widening when she saw me. Oh my goodness," she breathed. "You look breathtaking." "Thank you," I said softly. She wasn't looking at the dress alone. She was looking at the transformation. The gown hugged me like armor. The satin shimmering under the hallway lights. The embroidered sleeves looked like a constellation of stars scattered across my arms. I felt powerful, untouchable, and I wanted the world to see it. The violinists paused, waiting for their cue. The room went quiet. It was time. The coordinator placed her hands on the door handles. "Whenever you're ready." I took one last breath. Steady, deep, grounding. Then I nodded. The doors opened. Light spilled into the hallway, warm and almost heavenly. I stepped forward, and in an instant, the entire venue froze. Gasps rippled through the room like a wave crashing against the shore. My gown caught the candlelight and glowed. My posture was tall, unshaken. My expression calm but resolute. A woman who had walked through fire and come out polished, not burned. I didn't rush. I didn't shrink. I didn't look around nervously for approval. I walked like the room belonged to me. For the first time in my life, I felt exactly that. Somewhere to my left, a woman whispered loudly enough that half the room heard, "That's her backup dress. She looks like a queen." And then I found her. Patricia. Her eyes widened, her lips parting in disbelief. That smirk she'd worn so confidently earlier was gone, obliterated. In its place was something I had never seen on her face before. Fear. Not fear of me, but fear of the loss of control. Fear that her little moment of sabotage had not broken me, but instead elevated me in front of her friends, her family, and, most importantly, her son. She blanched. Fingers gripping her clutch, so tightly her knuckles whitened. She looked like someone who had placed a chess piece too confidently, only to realize too late that she had walked right into checkmate. My gaze didn't linger on her. She had already taken more of my time than she deserved. Instead, I looked ahead, toward the altar. Daniel stood there, his mouth slightly open, eyes shining with something close to awe. He blinked once, twice, then smiled with so much warmth that my knees weakened. He whispered something I couldn't hear, but I could read his lips clearly. "You look perfect. Not beautiful. Not pretty. Perfect." My steps slowed as I reached the aisle, and Leela handed me the bouquet. I took it with steady hands, never breaking eye contact with the man I was about to marry. The violins resumed, softer this time, as if they, too, were watching me. Step by step, I walked down the aisle. Every bit of shame Patricia tried to stamp on me dissolving with each stride. People smiled, some even teared up. It wasn't the dress alone, it was the energy, the transformation, the quiet confidence that radiated from me like sunlight. Halfway down the aisle, I glanced briefly at Patricia. She was no longer smirking. She was sinking. And that was when I realized revenge didn't need theatrics. It just needed truth. And the truth was simple. No matter what she did, I had risen above it. By the time I reached Daniel's hands, I was no longer the bride who had run crying from a stained gown. I was the woman who had turned humiliation into power. And this wedding, my wedding, was about to become the moment I reclaimed every part of myself. Daniel's hands were warm when he took mine at the altar. His thumbs brushed my knuckles in soft, steady circles, a silent promise that even if the world crumbled around us, he wouldn't let me fall. Not today. Not ever. For a heartbeat, the only thing that existed was the two of us. The music faded, the whispers stilled, and even the flickering candles felt like they bent closer to listen. The officiant began speaking, but I barely heard the words. I was focused on the moment, this moment, when everything Patricia tried to destroy had instead crystallized into something stronger. Then, the vows began. Daniel spoke first, voice thick with emotion. His words washed over me like sunlight, tender, loyal, unwavering. Every sentence was a choice, every promise intentional, and with each one, I felt the last of Patricia's cruel whisper dissolving. When it was my turn, I glanced out at the crowd. At Patricia. Her face was tight, brittle. She sat rigidly, chest rising and falling in shallow breaths, as though she were trying to swallow the reality unfolding before her. She had spent months trying to convince Daniel that I wasn't good enough, trying to convince me I wasn't lovable, trying to manipulate our wedding into a spectacle of her own superiority. But she had miscalculated. Badly, I took a breath and began my vows. Not loud, not theatrical, just honest. In my life, I said, I've known loss, I've known abandonment. I've known what it feels like to be told I wasn't enough. A ripple of attention swept through the room. I didn't look at Patricia directly, but I felt her stiffen. But then I met you, Daniel, and for the first time, I learned what it feels like to be chosen. Every day, without hesitation, Daniel's eyes shone. And so today, I make the same promise to you. To choose you, every day. To love you without fear, to stand beside you, and to protect this marriage from anyone who tries to harm it. Anyone. The word hung in the air, pointed, clear, undeniable. People turned subtly in their seats. Some glanced at Patricia. Her cheeks flushed pink, then pale, then a blotchy red she couldn't control. We exchanged rings, sealed vows with a kiss, and the room erupted into applause. But the real reckoning came at the reception. Later that evening I was standing near the dessert table, chatting with guests who kept complimenting my dress and my entrance, when I saw Patricia approaching. She walked with a stiff sort of dignity, like a queen forced to attend her own dethroning. "May I speak with you?" she asked tightly. Daniel, who stood beside me, crossed his arms. "If you're here to deny what you did, don't bother." Her eyes flickered with panic. Daniel. "Sweetheart, I don't know what she told you, but..." "She didn't tell me anything," he said. "Leela did, and 2 of the bridesmaids, and the makeup artist, and my aunt, who overheard you bragging in the hallway that the little accident would teach her a lesson." Well, Patricia's jaw dropped. What? That's ridiculous." "Mom," he said quietly. They all told the same story. Her composure cracked. The veneer she had spent a lifetime polishing splintered into sharp pieces. I spoke then, not cruelly, but firmly. "You tried to humiliate me. On my wedding day. In the dress your son bought me. That wasn't an accident." Patricia swallowed hard. "I may have gotten carried away, but I only wanted what was best for him." "No," Daniel said. "You wanted control." Her lips trembled. "I'm your mother, and this," Daniel said, taking my hand, "is my wife. And if you can't respect her, you won't be part of our life." Her eyes widened, wounded, not by guilt, but by the sudden realization that her power had consequences. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, but not my strength. "I don't need an apology, Patricia. I don't even expect one. But understand this. I won't let anyone, even you, dictate my worth again." She stared at me, speechless. Daniel guided me away, his hand warm and steady at my back. Behind us, Patricia sank into a chair. Alone at a table meant for 8. And for the first time, she looked like the abandoned one. The real victory later that night, as Daniel and I slow danced under strings of glowing lights. He whispered into my hair, "I'm proud of you." I rested my head on his chest. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted my peace back. "And you got it," he murmured. I looked across the room at Patricia, silent, subdued, finally facing the truth she had spent years hiding behind manipulation and arrogance. But the victory wasn't that she suffered. The victory was that she didn't break me. I had walked back into that room 30 minutes after she tried to ruin me radiant. Unafraid. Unshakable. And that, the woman I became in spite of her, was the sweetest revenge of all.